today I'm doing a video that's slightly different from the ones that I usually do, and as you can already see from the video title, I'm going to be talking about one of the projects that I've been working on for a really long time, and that's the self-care kit, which I'm going to be launching in the store next week. So if you'd like to find out more about what it is and what it contains and how it works, then please continue watching. So before I kind of just walk you through what the kit contains, I wanted to just share with you like a backstory. So this idea actually came to me about, let's say, 2 years ago. So in February 2017, I actually came up with designs for self-care reward stickers, and the idea behind it is to actually encourage and motivate people to do more self-care things for themselves, you know, to actually incorporate more self-care habits into their lifestyle. It's kind of like when we are in school, when we were young, and when we have done well, our teacher would actually reward us with like a good job sticker or a good job stamp. And it kind of works that way, but in a way that it's supposed to reward you for any self-care act that you have done for yourself, so that it would actually motivate you to actually do it more often. That's just the idea behind it, and like I actually came up with the designs and things like that. But then after that, I kind of got stuck because one, I clearly didn't know what I was doing and the designs turned out really lame, and two, like I didn't know how to further develop the idea to actually translate the message that I was trying to send. So I kind of put that on pause, and I decided to continue working on the Prioritize You kit, which if you follow me, you would know that it's one of the first products that I have launched on the store, and it's one of the projects that actually mean a lot to me, and till now I'm still really happy that I actually did it, because it's one of my goals to actually come up with products that have a meaning behind them and actually is able to help people to do more of the things that I often encourage them to do in the Prioritize You kit, as well as in the self-care kit, which is to actually put themselves first and, you know, just to actually take care of their overall well-being, like not just their physical well-being but also their mental well-being. So these points are actually really important to me, and I actually hope to come up with products that can, you know, help people with doing that. So after working on the store for some time, I kind of, you know, really wanted to go back to this idea and develop it and actually come up with a product that can help people to incorporate more self-care habits into their lifestyle. So I was looking at the self-care rewards stickers, the designs, and I was thinking how I could adapt and modify it, make it better, and actually, you know, help people to incorporate these self-care habits into their lifestyle easier. And then I kind of just decided to turn the stickers into self-care stamps instead. So like self-care reward stamps. The stamps as in the ones that you use an ink pad and stamp, not the ones that you use to send like mails to people, like not that kind of stamps. So the reason why is actually because like I kind of thought about it, and I felt that the stickers weren't really a practical idea, because I feel that with stickers there's only so many stickers you can buy. So the main purpose of this is to actually encourage and motivate people to, you know, do more self-care things for themselves. So I didn't want them to actually have to repurchase the stickers every time they run out, and like I didn't want them to be spending a ridiculous amount of money on stickers just to actually motivate themselves to do more self-care things. So I felt that that wasn't practical and sustainable in the long run, and, you know, instead of encouraging them, I feel that it might even discourage them to like actually do these self-care habits because of the amount of money they would have to spend. So I decided to turn them into stamps instead, because with stamps you only have to buy them once, and like you can use them for as long as you like, as long as you have an ink pad, and, you know, as long as the stamps last you for the amount of time. So yeah, I decided to kind of just work on the design and improve it and actually turn them into stamps. And that's the end of my short backstory, and I just wanted to let you know like how the idea came about and how I actually worked on it, you know, to kind of make it to how it is today. So I hope that this self-care kit helps people who don't already have all these self-care habits in their lifestyle, and it can actually, you know, make it easier for them to incorporate them into their lifestyle and keep up with it in the long run. And you know, for those people who actually do often do these things already, like these habits are already in your lifestyle, I hope that this kit is able to help you to keep track of it and, you know, keep up with this habit in the long run. So now I'm just gonna briefly show you what the self-care kit contains, and I'm gonna explain to you in detail like how it works, because I kind of came up with like a simple system that you can actually use to kind of motivate yourself and reward yourself at the same time, so that you can keep up with this habit in the long run, and it would make it like fun and rewarding as well. So yeah, do continue watching and I will try to explain to you how it works. Okay, so let me just quickly show you what the self-care kit contains, and then after that I'll explain to you in detail how you are supposed to use the different things that are given to you in the self-care kit. So firstly, you'll be getting a set of stems, and this is just a simple packaging that I did for the stems using a plain brown box and some vintage paper and a wax seal. And I'm just going to quickly open up the box and show you how the stems look like. So you can gently just take them out of the box, and you can see there will be a set of 20 stems. So basically each stem represents a different self-care act that you can do for yourself. And the idea of this is to mainly, you know, like I said, encourage you and reward yourself for doing any of these self-care acts. So whenever you've done any of them, you can actually stamp them inside your booklet, which I will talk about later. These stamps are actually just using doodles that I have done, and I actually got them engraved on rubber, and then I mounted them onto these wooden blocks. And I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. Next on the list is actually this memo pad, which kind of acts as like a monthly tracker for each individual self-care stem. So I will teach you how to use it later, but it's just for you to stamp down the stems and kind of just check them off as the month goes by. So for every day that you have done any of these self-care acts, then you get to check them in the respective box. So at the end of the month, you can just kind of see how well you've been taking your time out to actually do all these self-care acts for yourself. Next, you'll also be getting one of these booklets which I have made myself, and as you can see, they come in 3 different colors, so you'll just be getting one of them at random. And I just did a really simple design for the cover of the booklet. I'm just going to quickly just flip through and show you what the booklet looks like. The booklet kind of acts as a daily logbook for you to stamp and record down, you know, the self-care acts that you have done for yourself every single day of the month. And it's also a place for you to, you know, insert all the things that you want to remind yourself of self-care. It can be photos, drawings, quotes, and things like that. So you can just add them inside this booklet, and you can flip it through and, you know, kind of remind yourself how important self-care is. And it particularly helps when you're having a rough day or you're feeling down and you just want to remind yourself how you deserve to be, you know, like taken care of, and how you can actually do that for yourself. Next, you'll also be getting these score summary cards, which you can kind of tear them out and use at the end of every month. So you're kind of supposed to add up all the scores at the end of the month, and you write them down on this card, and it will give you a percentage to kind of show you how well you've been taking time out to actually do all these self-care things for yourself. And like, I will kind of demonstrate to you how you're gonna use this later on. As you can see, it comes in different colors, and you'll be getting 3 of these strips in every self-care kit. So each strip actually contains 4 cards, and you know, 3 times 4, you actually get 12 of these cards inside one kit, which can last you for about a year, because you'll only be using 1 card for each month. And yeah, the colors you get will kind of be at random, but I'll definitely make sure that you'll be getting 3 strips of different colors. So in the kit, I've also included some printouts of drawings that I have made that kind of reminds me of what self-care feels like. So to me, when I think of self-care, I kind of think of how calming it is for the soul, and these drawings just kind of represents that. And you can use these drawings in your booklet or however you would like. And yeah, so I've also included a manual inside the self-care kit, and it kind of just describes to you how the whole system works, and it kind of explains to you what it does and how you're gonna go about to calculate the different scores and things like that. And also I've given like a breakdown of the different self-care acts, so like I kind of included what are the things that you can actually do for each self-care act. Like I have included some examples, and I also talk about the benefits of doing like each self-care act, so that you kind of can see the benefits, and hopefully it would motivate you to do them more often. Everything you need to know is basically in this manual, and it should be able to guide you through and show you like how to use this whole self-care kit. Now we'll just briefly kind of try to explain to you how the whole system works and how you can actually use it to keep track of your self-care habits. So firstly, you're supposed to begin allocating points for each of the self-care acts. So there are 20 self-care acts, as I mentioned earlier on, because there are 20 stems. So if you kind of just flip to the 3rd and 4th page of the booklet, you will see that there is a space for you to actually write down all the different self-care acts, and at the side you can actually allocate a point to each of the self-care acts upon 10. So how you're going to allocate the point is basically you're going to just go through each of the self-care acts, and you're going to evaluate and ask yourself like, how difficult do I find myself to actually do each of these self-care things. So for example, for myself, I personally find it really hard to ask people for help, so I would probably award that particular self-care act a higher point upon 10. So let's say I'm just going to award it 9 points. So for every time that I actually ask someone for help, I get to accumulate 9 points, and it's actually pretty high. So it's kind of encouraging and rewarding at the same time, and it would actually motivate me to probably ask people for help more often. Whenever I find that I need help, I would try to ask someone to help me. So yeah, you just kind of continue to fill out the list and award points for each of the self-care acts, and you can choose to actually total up all the scores and actually write them at the bottom of the page, like the bottom of the 2nd page over here. But this is totally optional, and you can choose not to do it as well, but it may come in handy when you're gonna calculate your scores in future. So yeah, that's it for this component. Now I'm going to show you how to use the memo pad. So like I said, the memo pad is kind of to act as a monthly tracker for each of the self-care stems. So as I mentioned, there are 20 self-care stems. So in each month, you will kind of be tearing out 20 of these sheets. I'm not going to tear it out, but I'm just going to use like one of the samples that I've printed, and I'm going to show you like how I'm going to fill it up. But firstly, as you can see, there is a box here, which is a space for you to actually stamp down the stems. And then at the bottom, you can see there are 31 boxes here, which kind of represents the maximum amount of days that a month can have. So the first box represents day 1 of the month, the second box represents day 2, and so on. So you kind of just check the boxes according to which day of the month that you have done each of the self-care acts. So at a glance, you can kind of see like how many days of the month you've been like taking your time out to do like each of these individual self-care things for yourself. So other than stamping the stamp and checking off the boxes, you can also write down which month is it, and also write down the individual point that you have allocated for this particular self-care act at the bottom. So it's easy for you to reference to when you're calculating the total score. There are two more boxes, one says PT and one says MX. So PT kind of stands for points awarded and MX stands for the maximum amount of points that you can be awarded for this particular component, in this case for this particular self-care act. So in the manual I kind of included like a formula that you can use to actually calculate these two portions, but it's actually really simple, so I'm just going to try to explain to you now. So the formula to calculate the points awarded for yourself in this month for this particular self-care act is basically you kind of use the individual amount of point that you have allocated for this self-care act and you multiply it by the number of days that you have actually done this self-care act in a month. So for example, I have put myself first 10 days in this month, so I'm going to use the 8 points that I have awarded for this self-care act. I'm going to use that and multiply it by 10. So I kind of get awarded 80 points for this month for this particular self-care act. And for the maximum points that I can possibly award myself is if, let's say, you imagine yourself to be doing this self-care act every single day of the month. So that's the maximum amount of points that you can possibly award yourself. So the formula is really simple as well. You can just use 8 points, which is the point that you have allocated for this individual self-care act, and you multiply it by the maximum number of days that this month have. So for example, if it's February and this month has 28 days, I'm going to use 8 times 28 and I kind of get the maximum amount of points that I can possibly achieve for this particular component. So don't worry, like I said, the formula will be in the manual, so you can kind of just reference to it as and when you need. Like, you don't have to remember it by heart or anything. It's not supposed to stress you out like that. So at the end of the month, you're going to consolidate all the 20 sheets and you're going to add up all the points together and actually fill them out inside the score summary card. How to calculate this PT portion is basically you're going to add up the PT component from all the 20 sheets and then you'll come up with a score that you can kind of fill up. And for the MX as well, it's the same thing. You add up the MX portion in all the 20 different sheets and you add them up together and you get a score that you can fill up on the score summary card. I'm just gonna use like a sample sheet that I have printed out to actually demonstrate to you again. For example, let's just say I have added up all the PT from the 20 sheets and I come up with this score, so I'm going to just write it here. And the same with MX, I added up all the MX from the different 20 sheets and I'm just going to come up with a score and I'll just write it inside this score summary card. So after that, I'm just going to fill in like which month it is, and at the side I'm just going to write down the year as well, so it's easy for me to identify in future. And after that, I'm supposed to calculate the percentage that I have been awarded this month. So how I'm going to do that is I'm just going to use the PT score that I have added up and I'm going to divide it by the MX, which is basically these two scores that I have written down here on the score summary card. I'm just going to divide that by that and then I'm going to come up with a percentage. Okay, so I've calculated and using this score, I actually came up with a percentage of 23%. It's kind of the gist of it. And at the bottom, there's just a space for you to actually fill up any remarks that you would like to write. So for me, maybe I can just write something like, I can actually do better in the next month. So this little flower here is kind of to just show you which part of the scale you're on. So in the manual, I kind of explained that you're supposed to shade the number of petals according to your percentage score. So here I kind of indicated you're supposed to shade how many petals according to how many percent that you get. So for me, like in this example, I got a score of 23%. So according to the score range, I am supposed to shade 2 petals only. So the more petals you get, the better you're doing, I guess. And this whole thing, this whole scoring system is supposed to actually be like a rough guide for you to actually see, how well you're actually taking time out to do all these self-care things. Like, it's not supposed to be stressful or anything, because you know, this whole thing is supposed to be fun, and it's supposed to actually encourage and motivate you to do more self-care things for yourself. So don't stress about it. Like, if your score isn't that well this month, you know, like you're on the lower end of the scale, then you can just take note of that and, you know, actually make a conscious effort to take a little more time out the next month to do more self-care things for yourself. And at the end, you can just kind of tear it out, and you know, you can consolidate all the sheets that you have used during the month, and you can just put them aside, and you know, whenever you want to reference them in future, you can just take out this bunch and you can see like how well you've been doing for this month. So for every time that you do any of these self-care things, other than checking them off inside the log sheet, you're also supposed to stamp them inside the daily logbook, which is the booklet that I have showed you earlier on. So let me quickly just give you like a more detailed flip through of this booklet. As you can see, the first page says for myself, and this is the page that I have showed you earlier on, the one where you're supposed to, you know, allocate the points for each of the self-care things. This booklet is mainly filled with all these daily pages that you can actually stamp in. So let me just show you. It says things that I have done for myself today. So you're just supposed to stamp them inside this page. You can actually elaborate on the things that you have done, and you know, the details, and you know, how it makes you feel and things like that. So let me just show you an example. So firstly, I'm just going to write down the date. So let's say today is the 1st of March. So I'm just going to write that down at the top right hand corner, but it's up to you where you want to write the date. So at the end of the day, I'm just going to think about all the self-care things that I have done for myself. So let's say today I have actually put on a film to watch. So I'm just going to reach out for that stamp, and I'm just going to stamp it right here. And at the side, I'm just going to write down, like, for example, what film I have watched, how it made me feel, and you know, whether I liked it or not, and things like that. It's all up to you, but you know, just elaborate on the thing that you have done, so that you know, it's gonna be like a little journal entry that you can kind of look back on next time. Today I decide to, you know, tuck in early, so I'm gonna use that stamp and I'm gonna stamp it here. So I'm gonna write about the details at the side as well, and like I'm just gonna write like, today I decide to go to bed at what time. So it's kind of like a journal entry, like I mentioned. And you know, the next day I can even go back to this page and like just write an update on how going to bed early actually makes me feel, you know, whether I actually felt a difference or not. So here's an example that I said. I feel so refreshed and my mind feels a lot clearer the next day. So yeah, that's just an example. That's just kind of the gist of it, you know, like you kind of get the idea of how this works. And other than these daily pages inside this logbook, let me just show you the other pages that are in it as well. So there are these vintage pages that I've also added inside, and there are also lists. So as you can see, this one, it says a list of comfort food. It's basically what it says, a list of comfort food. So you can actually fill that in, because actually there is a stamp that says had comfort food. So this is kind of for that, like whenever you feel like you need it, like there is this list that you can refer to. And other than that, there is also a list of books. So you can actually write down a list of your favorite books, or a list of books that you are currently reading right now. Because yeah, there's also a stamp that says read a book. So it's kind of for that. So other than that, there are also these colored pages and vintage pages which I've added in, and you can kind of just stick like photos, quotes and things like that on them. So the printouts that I have included inside the self-care kit, you know, the drawings that I did, you can also stick them inside, and you can decorate like how you want them to be. So that's basically it, and I just wanted to let you see like the cover of the booklet. It's actually like really simple, but I did put in quite a bit of effort because I wanted to maintain the shape of the flower. So like I like how the real flower looks on the cover, but you know the flower itself is really flimsy, so like I had to find a way to actually one, prevent it from dying so quickly, and two, you know, to actually not make it break so easily, like don't make it fall off so easily. So I came up with the way I actually taped the flower between two clear scotch tape, and then I pressed out all the air bubbles, and then I cut it out according to the shape of the flower. So that kind of made it like a flower that was kind of laminated, but of course with something that is not as expensive. So that's basically how I made the cover, and yeah, I really had a lot of fun doing this and putting all of them together. I actually experimented with a lot of different ways on how to actually incorporate the flowers as part of the cover. Like the initial idea was actually to use like a hot glue gun and a wax seal, but that idea didn't really work out, so like I kind of continued experimenting and I kind of came up with this idea. So I really like how it looks, and I actually decided to just stick with it. Oh, and let me just show you like the drafts that I kind of did when I was actually coming up with this self-care kit, and you know the development process and all. Like it's really nothing, but I thought it would be interesting to show you. So when I come up with an idea, I kind of like to draw them out, write them down, and you know, break it down, so it will be easier for me to kind of know what my idea is about and how I can like develop them from different areas. So as you can see, this is the initial doodle of the self-care drawings, like the ones that I developed from the self-care stickers, and I decided to turn them into like these cute little drawings. And then this was supposed to be how I wanted to track the daily stamp thing, but it didn't work out, and it ended up being the booklet instead because I wanted it to be more detailed. So this is just a rough guide of like what I wanted the self-care kit to contain. So like the stamps, the memo pad, the booklet, and the scorecards and stuff like that. And this is like how I wanted the layout of the booklet to be like, or like what it contains. So of course like many things changed from then, but this is one of the initial like drafts that I did for the idea. So like whenever I have an idea, I like to just quickly write it down on paper so that I wouldn't forget it, and in future, like when I want to develop it, I will just look back on all these little drafts that I have done and kind of, you know, work on them. Oh, and I also wanted to show you, this is how the booklet was supposed to be like. It was like the first idea that I got, so I actually printed them out and I used this paper fastener thing to kind of fasten all the pages together, but it wasn't really working out because like the booklet couldn't be opened fully for people to write, and I myself find that a bother. Like it was really inconvenient, and like even though the pages can be taken out individually to actually be written down, but like I preferred the booklet version, and even though it took a little more work because I had to like bind them by hand together, it was totally worth it because they turn out so much nicer and you can like totally open the book completely, which I myself really appreciate. So I'm really happy that I chose the booklet instead of the paper fastener method. Oh, the lighting is so different now, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed the part where I was trying to explain to you how everything works and how you are going to use the kit and things like that. So there's that, and there is one thing that I would like to mention is you don't have to worry about the booklet and all the other supplies running out, because like I said, the purpose of this is to actually make it easy for you to actually keep up with this habit of incorporating these self-care things into your life. And so I have included a printable for you with every self-care kit that you purchase. So you actually get a file that you can print at home, so you can print out the booklet the memo pad, the score summary cards, and I think that's it. So yeah, you can print them out in your house and, you know, cut them and kind of assemble them together. It's really easy, so you don't have to actually purchase a refill on the store. Like, you don't have to spend any more money than the one-time sum that you kind of like pay to purchase the kit. The whole thing is to actually kind of just help you to get into the habit of doing this and to familiarize yourself with the system. So once you finish the booklet, I feel that you would actually be pretty familiar with like how the whole system works and, you know, how to go about like keeping track of all these different self-care habits. But let's say if you don't have the time, like you find that you don't have the time to actually like print them out and assemble them yourself, then like there is the option for you to also purchase a refill on the store. The printable option is if you are not willing to spend the money, like you don't want to spend the money to actually purchase a refill because you feel like you can actually do them at home. So please feel free to do so. And yeah, so there is one option, you can print it at home. You can actually purchase a refill in a store. And the third one is you can actually just incorporate the whole system into your own journal, because I feel like once you finish the booklet, you know, you would be familiar enough to actually know how everything works, and then you can just incorporate them into your own journal. And you know, you can feel free to adjust and change any of the little details that you feel might better suit your needs. You know, like the whole thing is supposed to be just like a rough guide for you to slowly ease yourself into these self-care habits. And once you have gotten the hang of it, then you can just change bits and pieces here and there just to adjust to your own needs. Like, you don't have to follow strictly to the steps that I have kind of given you. It's just meant to be like a rough guide so that you can understand how the system works and, you know, make it easier for yourself to kind of get into the habit of doing this. So thank you for sitting with me and hearing me talk about all these things. Like, I am really awkward on camera, but like I couldn't find a better way to kind of explain to you like all these things in detail and to tell you what everything is about, how the system works. Like, I did think about whether I can actually do a video where I didn't have to show myself and I didn't have to talk. You know, like the videos that I usually do from my journal with me, I could just show you like how to do it with words at the side. But I feel like, I don't know, I would feel like people won't actually go and read the words because there are too many things to explain. So I feel like this would be the best way for me to just share with you how the self-care kit works. And yeah, thank you for listening to me and, you know, for making it to this part of the video. I'm sure this video is pretty long, so thank you for sitting with me. And I'm just really happy to be able to come up with products that, you know, can actually convey these messages that really mean a lot to me. And I hope that you would enjoy the self-care kit as much as I have enjoyed putting them together. So do look forward to the release of it on the store next week. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video. So thank you for watching and goodbye.
I have tried my best to find you through the fields and forest floors. I have waited in the silence that knocks upon the door. I have stumbled through the alleys in a place I did not know. If it's all the same to you, love, I will take the last train home. I have cursed you in the morning, I have laid awake at night, I have begged for your forgiveness to avoid a fight. I have held on to my anger, watched the sunset on my pride. If it's all the same to you, love, funny